The Lethviran escape pod tumbled through the darkness, its emergency beacon pulsing weakly into the void. Inside, Ambassador Nyrel Vox pressed her four-fingered hand against the viewport, watching as her homeworld's defense fleet disintegrated. Under the onslaught of the Kravashi Armada, her pale blue skin, normally luminescent with health, had dulled to a sickly gray as the life support systems struggled to maintain viable conditions. "Navigation systems offline," announced the pods, AI in a voice that seemed increasingly distant. "Oxygen reserves at 27%. Power core integrity failing." Nyrel slumped into the pilot's seat, her slender frame shaking. The Kravashi had struck without warning, their warships emerging from the asteroid belt like predators from tall grass. The diplomatic summit, intended to broker peace between the Lethviran Cooperative and the neighboring Osiri Republic, had been obliterated in the first volley. As the senior surviving official, Nyrel carried the encrypted knowledge of her civilization's remaining outposts, technology caches, and civilian shelters, knowledge that would die with her in the emptiness between stars. The pod's emergency thrusters had long since depleted their fuel, leaving her drifting in an uncharted sector far from any mapped trade routes. The Lethviran were not a spacefaring species by nature. They had only ventured beyond their world in the last century, and their territory remained confined to a handful of nearby systems. "Warning, atmospheric contamination detected." The AI's voice crackled. "Carbon dioxide levels rising." Nyrel's third eyelid flickered involuntarily. Her species could enter a state of suspended animation under extreme conditions, but it would only extend her survival by a few days at most. The void would claim her, as it had claimed so many others. She activated her personal recorder, her voice trembling. "Final testament of Ambassador Nyrel Vox, 7th-tier emissary of the Lethviran Cooperative. Our world has fallen to Kravashi. Aggression. I carry the encrypted endurance protocol data in my neural implant. If found, please deliver this information to any surviving Lethviran enclaves." She paused, swallowing hard. "May the eternal current remember our people." The pod's lights flickered, then dimmed as the backup power system began to fail. In the new darkness, Nyrel closed her eyes, prepared to enter the hibernation trance. That would postpone, but not prevent, her end. A violent shudder ran through the escape pod. Nyrel's eyes snapped open as the small craft lurched, caught in an unseen force. The viewports blazed with sudden light, a massive silhouette eclipsing the distant stars. "Gravitational tether detected," the AI announced with unexpected clarity. "Unknown vessel approaching." Nyrel pressed against the viewport, her heart racing. The ship that loomed above her was unlike any she had ever seen. Neither the elegant, crystalline designs of the Lethviran, nor the biomechanical nightmares of the Kravashi. This vessel was angular, utilitarian, with massive engines that pulsed with a strange blue-white energy. Its hull bore markings in an unfamiliar script, and its sheer size dwarfed even the largest Osiri warships. The pod's communications system crackled to life, startling her. "Unidentified vessel, this is the UNSC Horizon Breaker. We've detected your emergency beacon and are initiating rescue protocols. Stand by for extraction." The voice was oddly flat, lacking the musical harmonics of Lethviran speech or the guttural clicks of the Osiri. Nyrel's neural translator struggled to process the language, a tongue it had never encountered before. As the pod was drawn into the massive ship's hangar bay, Nyrel realized with a mixture of terror and wonder that she was about to make first contact with an entirely unknown species, alone, unprepared, and completely at their mercy. The last thing she saw before the pod was enveloped by the ship's interior was a strange emblem painted on the hull, a circle of stars surrounding a silhouette that stood on two legs with limbs outstretched toward the cosmos. The airlock hissed open, flooding the escape pod with foreign air that carried unfamiliar scents, metallic, organic compounds Neryl's olfactory receptors couldn't identify. She remained still, crouched defensively in the pod's command chair, her translator implant humming as it attempted to construct communication parameters. 3 figures entered, clad in form-fitting suits with transparent faceplates. Neryl's breath caught in her throat. The beings stood upright on 2 limbs, their bodies lacking the segmentation of the Leth Viran or the crystalline exoskeletons of the Osiri. Their skin appeared soft, vulnerable, and varied in tone from pale beige to rich brown. They possessed only 2 eyes, not the sensory clusters of most spacefaring species, and their faces featured peculiar protrusions above hinged jaws. Humans. Her translator finally categorized the morphology from ancient xenobiology archives, though no Leth Viran had ever encountered this species directly. Life signs stable but distressed, said the tallest human, a female with dark skin and a pattern of short, tightly coiled hair. A device on her wrist projected data into the air between them. Oxygen mixture compatible with our atmosphere at 80% standard pressure. Ambassador? The human addressed Nyral directly, her voice now transmitted through the translator. I'm Commander Imara Okafor of the United Nations Space Command vessel Horizon Breaker. We've rescued your pod from deep space. Are you injured? Nyral straightened, drawing on her diplomatic training. Ambassador Nyrel Vox of the Leth Viran Cooperative. I am physically unharmed, Commander. My gratitude for your intervention. The humans exchanged glances. The Leth Viran? From the Askara sector? Asked the second human, shorter with lighter skin and facial hair. That's over 17 light-years from this position. My world has fallen, Nyrel said, her voice cracking. The Krivashi attacked without warning. Our defenses were overwhelmed within hours. The third human stepped forward, removing a small device from a compartment at their waist. I'm Dr. Cozy Rennet, xenobiologist. May I scan you for contamination or injuries you might not be aware of? Neril nodded, watching as the device emitted a grid of light that passed over her body. Remarkable evolutionary adaptations, Dr. Rennet murmured. Bioluminescent cellular structures, quaternary respiratory system. Doctor, Commander Okafor interrupted. Medical assessment later. Ambassador Vox, you're aboard a human exploratory vessel. We're mapping the outer reaches of the Norma Arm. Your escape pod's distress signal was faint but detectable to our long-range scanners. Nyril processed this information. Humans venture this far from your territories. Our records indicated your species was confined to a single planetary system. A slight smile crossed Commander Okafor's face. Those records are outdated. We've been expanding our reach for nearly 2 centuries now. The Krivashi, Nyrel began. We know of them, the bearded human interrupted grimly. Lieutenant Elio Vargas, tactical officer. The Krivashi have encroached on human territories twice in the last decade. Both times, they retreated after initial engagements. This revelation stunned Nyrel. The Krivashi were known throughout the sector as unstoppable conquerors, their hive-mind warfare overwhelming even the technologically superior Osiri. Ambassador, we'll provide you with quarters and medical attention, Commander Okafor said. Once you've rested, we'd like to debrief you on the Krivashi incursion. Any intelligence could help protect other systems in their path. As they led her from the pod, Nyril entered a vast hangar bay bustling with activity. Craft of various designs sat in maintenance bays, some clearly not of human origin. Crew members of diverse appearances worked with purpose, occasionally glancing at her with curiosity rather than fear or hostility. Your vessel, it's immense, Nyril observed. And those ships, they appear to be from multiple species. The Horizon Breaker is a diplomatic and exploration vessel, Commander Okafor explained. We maintain contact with 17 spacefaring civilizations and have formal alliances with 8. Lieutenant Vargas added, "Humans may have been late to the galactic community, Ambassador, but we've proven ourselves useful allies. We're particularly effective at bringing disparate species together for mutual benefit." As they entered a lift that would take them to the ship's medical bay, Nyril felt something she hadn't expected, a flicker of hope. Perhaps the fall of her homeworld wasn't the end of her people. "Commander," she said carefully, "I carry vital information about my civilization's remaining outposts and refugees. If the Kravashi are expanding into this sector, then we need to warn the Alliance immediately." Okafor finished, her expression hardening with resolve. "And perhaps it's time we showed the Kravashi that not all species can be so easily conquered." The medical bay of the Horizon Breaker hummed with technology both familiar and alien to Nyril. As Dr. Rennet administered treatments to counteract her oxygen deprivation, she studied the facility with growing fascination. Humans, it seemed, had adopted and modified medical technologies from multiple species, creating hybrid systems that were remarkably effective. "Your cellular regeneration is impressive," Dr. Rennet noted, reviewing holographic displays of Nyril's physiology. "The damage from your pod's failing life support is already healing." The Lethviran evolved in tidal pools subject to extreme variations in oxygen content, Nyril explained. "We adapt quickly to environmental stresses." "Fascinating," the doctor replied, adjusting a parameter on the medical bed. "That may explain why your species survived the initial Kravashi attack. They typically target respiratory systems first." A chime sounded, and Commander Okafor entered with a tall human male whose uniform bore different insignia, golden emblems on the shoulders and chest. "Ambassador Vox, this is Captain Ravi Mehta, commanding officer of the Horizon Breaker," Okafor introduced. Captain Mehta inclined his head respectfully. "Ambassador, welcome aboard. I understand your situation is dire. We've called an emergency meeting of our senior staff to discuss how we might assist the Lethviran survivors." Nyril rose from the medical bed, her strength returning. "Captain, with respect, what could one ship, even one as impressive as yours, do against the Kravashi armada that destroyed our world?" A subtle smile crossed the captain's face. "The Horizon Breaker isn't alone, Ambassador. We're part of the Frontier Expeditionary Fleet, 23 vessels currently operating in this sector, and we've already transmitted alerts to our nearest allies." They proceeded to a conference room where holographic displays showed star charts and vessel movements. Several humans and 2 non-human beings, a crystalline entity that Nyril recognized as an Osiri diplomat and a towering furred creature she couldn't identify, were already seated. The Kravashi operate on a predictable expansion pattern, Lieutenant Vargas explained, manipulating the holographic display. After conquering a primary target, they establish forward bases and begin systematic resource extraction before moving to secondary objectives. "Which gives us time," added the Osiri representative, its voice translating through a device at the table's center. "Time the Lethviran never had." Captain Mehta nodded. "Ambassador Vox, we need to access the data you carry, the locations of surviving Lethviran outposts and refuges. Our primary objective is evacuation of those populations before the Kravashi. Locate them." Nyril hesitated. The Endurance Protocol was the most classified information in Lethviran possession, giving it to outsiders violated everything she had sworn to protect. "Captain, I appreciate your offer of assistance, but I cannot—" "Ambassador," interrupted the furred being. "I am diplomatic envoy Grask of the Hrundir Collective. My people once stood where yours now stand, on the edge of extinction at Kravashi. Hands. It was the humans who saved us, who taught us to fight back. Trust them as we did." Nyril stared at the Hrundir in shock. "The Kravashi were driven from Hrundir space? Our intelligence indicated your species was completely conquered 60 cycles ago." "Intelligence that the Kravashi themselves propagated," Captain Mehta explained. They rely on fear and the appearance of invincibility. In reality, they've been defeated multiple times, but they ensure those stories never spread. The captain activated a new holographic display showing historical footage of battles. Human vessels engaging Kravashi warships with tactics that seemed recklessly bold, yet devastatingly effective. Humans evolved as persistence hunters, Ambassador, Commander Okafor explained. When most species retreat from superior force, we advance. When conventional tactics fail, we improvise. The Kravashi hive mind cannot predict or counter human unpredictability. What the commander means, Lieutenant Vargas added with a grim smile, is that humans are the galaxy's most stubborn species. We don't know when to quit. For the first time since the fall of her world, Nyrel felt something beyond despair. The Iowa humans spoke with confidence born not of arrogance but experience. They had faced the Kravashi and survived. More than survived, they had pushed back. "If I provide the locations of our remaining outposts," Nyrel said slowly. "What then?" Phase 1. Evacuation of civilians to human and allied safe harbors, Captain Meta replied. Phase 2. Integration of your remaining military assets with our frontier fleet. Phase 3. Coordinated counteroffensive against Kravashi forward positions. The directness of the plan startled Nyrel. "You speak of war against the Kravashi as if it's already decided." "It was decided the moment they attacked your world," Captain Meta said firmly. "Humanity has a saying, Ambassador. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good beings to do nothing. We choose to do something." Nyrel looked around the room at these strange aliens who had rescued her from certain death and now offered to risk their lives for her people they had never even met before today. "Very well," she said, touching the neural implant at her temple. "I will transfer the endurance protocol data to your systems." The bridge of the UNSC Horizon Breaker buzzed with activity as Captain Meta reviewed the tactical display. Nyrel stood nearby, watching as the locations of Leth Viran outposts were integrated into the fleet's navigation systems, 17 hidden colonies, research stations, and emergency shelters scattered across the sector. "The nearest Kravashi scout vessels will reach Outpost Terrace in approximately 72 hours, Lieutenant Vargas reported, highlighting a small moon orbiting a gas giant. 218 Leth Viran scientists and their families. "Can we reach them in time?" Nyrel asked, her voice tight. Captain Meta nodded. "The Horizon Breaker can make the jump in 48 hours. I've dispatched the Coronado and the Zhukov to handle the other immediate risk locations. Commander..." Okafor approached with a data tablet. "Ambassador, we've prepared communication protocols. When we arrive at Outpost Terrace, we'll need to convince your people to trust us immediately. Evacuation will need to happen quickly. I've recorded authentication messages for each outpost," Nyrel confirmed. "My diplomatic credentials should overcome initial suspicion." The following 2 days became a blur of preparation. Nyrel observed with increasing admiration how the human crew operated, efficiently yet with a camaraderie that transcended professional duty. They joked even as they prepared for dangerous missions, a behavior that puzzled her until she recognized it as a stress management technique. Dr. Renette had cleared an entire deck for Leth Viran refugees, adjusting environmental controls to match their homeworld conditions. When Nyrel expressed surprise at the thoroughness of these preparations, the doctor explained that the Horizon Breaker was designed specifically for multi-species accommodation. "Humans learned early in our space exploration that versatility is survival," Dr. Rennet said. "We can't breathe underwater or survive radiation like other species, so we compensate with technology and adaptation." On the second day, Captain Meta invited Nyrel to observe combat drills. She watched, astonished, as human security teams practiced scenarios involving Kravashi boarding parties. Their tactics were unlike anything in Leth Viran military doctrine, unpredictable, aggressive, and oddly effective against simulated hive mind opponents. The Kravashi rely on neural linkage between their warrior drones, explained Security Chief Petra Voss, a compact human with short silver hair and multiple facial scars. They expect coordinated resistance that they can analyze and counter, so we don't give them patterns to analyze. Each squad develops their own tactics, Lieutenant Vargas added. Sometimes we deliberately deploy mismatched teams to create combat, chaos that confuses their hive intelligence. As they approached Outpost Terrace, Nyrel was summoned to the bridge. The gas giant loomed large in the view screen, its rings glittering with ice particles. The small research moon was barely visible against the planet's massive storms. Ambassador, we're detecting unusual energy signatures near the outpost, Commander Okafor reported. Not consistent with Lethviran technology. Kravashi? Nyrel asked, her heart sinking. Captain Mehta shook his head. Unknown. Could be automated defenses your people established. We're approaching with shields at maximum, but we need to establish contact before they perceive us as a threat. Nyrel stepped forward. Open a channel on the emergency diplomatic frequency. I'll identify myself. The communications officer nodded, and Nyrel spoke the formal identification phrases that would verify her identity to any Lethviran security system. For several tense moments, there was no response. Then the view screen flickered, revealing the face of a Lethviran military commander, his scales darkened with stress, eyes wide with disbelief. Ambassador Vox, you survived? Our intelligence reported the diplomatic corps was destroyed in the initial attack. Commander Raleth, I escaped via emergency pod. These humans rescued me from deep space and have come to evacuate Outpost Terrace. Before the Kravashi arrive, Commander Raleth's eyes darted to take in the human bridge crew. Humans? We have no diplomatic records of this species. How can we trust? Because the Kravashi battle fleet will reach this moon in less than 24 hours, Captain Mehta interrupted. We've detected their advanced scouts already entering the system. You have my word as an officer of the United Nations Space Command that we come only to help. Raleth hesitated, then nodded sharply. We will prepare for evacuation. But Ambassador, you should know, we are not merely a research outpost. After receiving news of the homeworld's fall, we activated the contingency archive. The complete genetic and cultural records of our species are stored here. Nyrel gasped. The contingency archive was the ultimate insurance against extinction, containing DNA samples, historical records, and technological knowledge of the entire Lethviran civilization. Captain, she turned to Mehta, we cannot allow this to fall into Kravashi hands. The archive must be evacuated first. Understood, Mehta replied without hesitation. Commander Okafor, prepare for priority cargo transfer. Security Chief Voss, assemble a ground team to assist with the archive transport. As the horizon breaker moved into orbit around the small moon, Nyrel looked at the humans working frantically to save not just her people, but the very essence of her civilization. They had no obligation to risk their lives this way, yet they did so without question. For the first time since the fall of her world, Ambassador Nyrel Vox allowed herself to believe that the Lethviran might have a future after all. The evacuation of Outpost Terrace proceeded with remarkable efficiency. Human shuttles ferried Lethviran scientists and their families to the horizon breaker, while specialized cargo vessels carefully transported the components of the contingency archive. Commander Raleth's security forces worked alongside human Marines, establishing defensive perimeters around the evacuation zones. 18 hours until the main Kravashi fleet arrives, Lieutenant Vargas announced on the bridge. Evacuation is 64% complete. And the archive? Captain Mehta asked. Primary genetic samples and cultural data cores have been transferred, Commander Okafor reported. Technical databases are being loaded now. Nyrel had been assisting with the refugee orientation aboard the Horizon Breaker. Many of her people were still in shock, not just from the fall of their homeworld, but from the sudden appearance of a previously unknown species offering salvation. The humans have 17 different words for courage in their primary language, Nyrel explained to a group of anxious Leth-Viran scientists. Their cultural emphasis on individual action in service of collective good makes them uniquely suited as allies against the Krivashi. A young Leth-Viran researcher raised her hand. But, Ambassador, how can we trust a species we've never encountered before? What do they gain from helping us? Before Nyrel could respond, Dr. Rennet entered the orientation chamber. Perhaps I can answer that, the human doctor said. Throughout our history, humans have found purpose in protecting others. We call it many things: duty, honor, compassion, but it comes down to a simple truth. We cannot stand by while others suffer if we have the power to help. The explanation seemed to resonate with the Leth-Viran scientists, whose own culture valued community responsibility. As Dr. Rennet continued explaining human cultural values and ship protocols, Nyrel was summoned to the bridge. Proximity alert, Captain Meta reported as soon as she arrived. 3 Krivashi scout vessels have dropped out of FTL at the system's edge. They'll detect our presence within minutes. How much longer for the evacuation? Nyrel asked. At least 4 more hours for the remaining personnel and critical archive components, Commander Okafor replied. We can't outrun Krivashi scouts. If they call in reinforcements, Captain Meta's expression hardened. Then we fight. Lieutenant Vargas, deploy countermeasures and prepare for combat engagement. Commander Okafor, signal the Coronado for immediate backup. Captain, Nyrel interjected, Krivashi scout vessels carry network nodes that link to their hive intelligence. If they transmit our position, they won't get the chance, Security Chief Voss stated firmly. Horizon Breaker may be primarily an exploration vessel, but we're not defenseless. The tactical display showed the 3 Krivashi vessels changing course, accelerating toward the gas giant's moon. Their distinctive biomechanical designs, resembling enormous insects with crystalline weapon arrays, brought back nightmarish memories of the attack on Nyrel's homeworld. Krivashi vessels are hailing us, the communications officer reported. Let's hear it, Captain Meta ordered. A harsh, multi-toned voice filled the bridge, the Krivashi translator struggling to approximate human language. Attention, unknown vessel. You harbor fugitives from Krivashi justice. Surrender the Leth-Viran immediately or face immediate destruction. Captain, Meta straightened in his command chair. This is Captain Ravi Mehta of the United Nations Space Command vessel Horizon Breaker. The Leth-Viran are under our protection. Withdraw from this system immediately. A cold, clicking laugh answered. Humans, your species is known to us. Primitive, isolated, insignificant. You have no authority here. Last warning. Withdraw or be destroyed. Meta's eyes narrowed. Lieutenant Vargas, target their propulsion systems. Let's show them how insignificant we are. What followed was unlike any naval engagement Nyrel had ever witnessed. Rather than maintaining distance as Leth-Viran vessels would, the Horizon Breaker accelerated directly toward the Krivashi formation. The human vessel's point defense systems activated with precision, intercepting the first volley of biocrystalline projectiles. They're attempting to establish a suppression field, Lieutenant Vargas warned. Neural disruptors powering up. Deploy countermeasures, Captain Meta ordered calmly. Execute maneuver Theseus 7. The Horizon Breaker abruptly changed course, releasing a cloud of small, autonomous drones that mimicked the ship's energy signature. The Krivashi vessels, momentarily confused by the multiple targets, scattered their fire. Now, Lieutenant, hit the lead vessel. The Horizon Breaker's main weapons, a technology Nyrel didn't recognize, fired brilliant lances of energy that bypassed the Krivashi shields completely. The lead scout vessel shuddered, its biomechanical hull rupturing in multiple places. Tracta hit to their network node, Lieutenant Vargas reported with satisfaction. They can't call for reinforcements now. The remaining 2 Krivashi vessels regrouped, launching a coordinated attack that rocked the Horizon Breaker. Damage reports flooded in, but the human crew responded with calm efficiency that astounded Nyrel. "Evacuate sections 12 through 17, Commander Okafor ordered. Reroute power from non-essential systems." "Second vessel attempting to flank us," Security Chief Voss reported. "They're targeting our shuttle bay. They know we're evacuating the outpost." Captain Meta's expression remained focused. "Deploy the Mimir system." A series of small satellites launched from the horizon breaker, forming a defensive grid around the shuttle bay. When the Kravashi vessel fired, the satellites intercepted the attack with a concentrated energy field that reflected the blast back at its source. The Kravashi ship reeled, its forward weapons array destroyed by its own firepower. "What was that?" Nyrel whispered to Commander Okafor. "Magnetically induced mirror image reflection," Okafor explained. "Turns their own energy against them. One of our more elegant defensive systems." The battle continued for nearly an hour, the human vessel dancing around the Kravashi scouts with surprising agility for its size. Nyrel watched in amazement as Captain Meta and his crew employed tactics that seemed recklessly bold yet devastatingly effective. When the Kravashi attempted to predict human maneuvers, Meta would order spontaneous course changes. When they adapted to one weapon system, the humans would switch to another. Finally, the remaining Kravashi vessel, damaged and unable to maintain combat effectiveness, retreated toward the edge of the system. "Should we pursue?" Lieutenant Vargas asked. "Captain," Meta shook his head. "No, our priority is completing the evacuation. They'll report back eventually, but by then we'll be long gone." He turned to Nyrel. "Ambassador, please inform your people that we've bought them time, but we need to accelerate the evacuation. Anything not loaded in the next 2 hours will have to be left behind." As Nyrel turned to leave the bridge, she paused. "Captain Meta, the Kravashi called humans primitive and insignificant, yet you defeated 3 of their vessels without assistance." A grim smile crossed the captains. "But the Krivashi's greatest weakness, Ambassador, is their arrogance. They underestimate any species that hasn't achieved their level of biological integration. They don't understand that human unpredictability is not a flaw. It's our greatest strength." 3 weeks after the evacuation of Outpost Terrace, Nyrel stood in the Horizon Breaker's observation dome, watching as the massive vessel dropped out of FTL near a star system she didn't recognize. Behind her, Captain Meta and Commander Okafor approached quietly. "Welcome to Sanctuary System, Ambassador," Captain Meta said. "Officially designated UNSC Protected Territory 7 Alpha." Nyrel gazed at the view before her, a pristine solar system, with a yellow star similar to the Leth-Viran home sun. The third planet gleamed blue-green, with vast oceans and scattered continents. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "But I don't understand. This system isn't on any of our star charts." "It wouldn't be," Commander Okafor explained. "We discovered it 5 years ago during our mapping of the Perseus transit. The planet has compatible atmospheric composition, stable tectonics, and established ecosystems, but no sentient indigenous species. We've been terraforming sections to make them more hospitable for refugee populations." "Terraforming?" Nyrel asked, the term unfamiliar. "Modifying planetary environments to support specific life forms," Captain Meta clarified. "A human specialty. We've established 17 refugee settlements across known space, providing safe havens for species displaced by conflict or natural disaster. And you would offer this to the Leth-Viran? An entire world?" Commander Okafor nodded. "The frontier. Alliance Council has already approved the emergency settlement proposal. Over the past 3 weeks, while the Horizon Breaker has been rescuing your outposts, other human vessels have been escorting the survivors here." Nyrel's third eyelid flickered in astonishment. "How many of my people have you saved?" 15 of the 17 outposts were evacuated successfully," Captain Meta replied. Approximately 27,000 Lethviran now reside in the temporary habitats on Sanctuary 3. The contingency archive has been secured in a dedicated facility with triple redundant systems. Nyril felt her legs weaken, and she gripped the observation rail for support. 27,000. When my homeworld fell, I feared our entire species might be reduced to mere hundreds. And the archive. It contains everything we are, everything we were. Your civilization will continue, Captain Meta assured her. The Lethviran are now under the protection of the Frontier Alliance. We've established a defensive perimeter around this system, and Alliance vessels patrol the approach vectors. But the Kravashi, Neril began, are facing challenges on multiple fronts, Commander Okafor interjected with a satisfied smile. News of their attack on your homeworld has unified previously neutral species against them. The Osiri Republic has formally joined the Alliance, committing their crystalline warships to the defensive effort. The Rundir Collective has opened their strategic reserves. And humans? Nyril asked. What have you committed to this conflict? A new voice answered from behind them. Everything necessary to ensure the Kravashi threat is contained, Ambassador. Nyril turned to see a distinguished older human in an elaborate uniform adorned with numerous medals and insignia. Captain Meta and Commander Okafor snapped to attention. Ambassador Vox, may I present Admiral Kaori Tanaka, commander of the UNSC Frontier Expeditionary Fleet, Captain Meta introduced. The Admiral stepped forward, extending her hand in the human greeting, gesture Nyril had learned. Ambassador, I've come to formally welcome the Lethviran as probationary members of the Frontier Alliance and to oversee the establishment of your new homeworld. Admiral, I don't know how to express our gratitude, Nyril said, carefully shaking the offered hand. Why would humans risk so much for a species you've never encountered before? Admiral Tanaka's weathered face softened. Throughout human history, Ambassador, we've learned that survival often depends on cooperation. Our earliest ancestors survived through tribal bonds. Later, we formed nations, then global alliances. When we reached the stars, we recognized that the same principle applies on a galactic scale. She gestured toward the view screen, where shuttles could be seen descending toward the blue-green planet. Humans may have come late to interstellar civilization, but we brought with us something many older species had forgotten: the understanding that diversity creates resilience. Each species brings unique perspectives, technologies, and adaptations. Together, we're stronger than any of us could be alone. As the Horizon Breaker moved into orbit around Sanctuary 3, Nyril could see the sprawling temporary settlement already. Established on the northern continent, prefabricated structures designed to accommodate Lethviran physiological needs, surrounded by fields being prepared for their native crops. The sight brought tears to her eyes. We're scheduling your shuttle. Departure in 2 hours, Commander Okafor said gently. Your people have been asking for you. They need leadership in this transition. Of course, Nyril replied, composing herself. Admiral, Captain, Commander, there is an ancient Lethviran tradition. When one saves the life of another, they become Virkalath, life-bound. It means our destinies are forever intertwined. By saving not just my life, but the future of my entire species, humanity has become Virkalath to all Lethviran. We are bound to you now, through the generations. To come, Admiral Tanaka smiled. Then we accept this bond gladly, Ambassador, and we look forward to seeing what the Lethviran will contribute to our shared future. As the shuttle carried Nyril down to the surface of what would become the new Lethviran homeworld, she watched the massive human vessels in orbit. Not just the Horizon Breaker, but 5 other UNSC ships that had arrived to strengthen the system's defenses. Each represented thousands of humans willing to stand between her people and extinction. The landing pad was crowded with Lethviran, their scales shimmering with renewed hope as they spotted the diplomatic shuttle. Many had presumed her dead. after the fall of their homeworld. Their collective luminescence, a biological response to positive emotional states, created a gentle glow across the settlement. Commander Ralith was the first to greet her as she disembarked. "Ambassador Vox, welcome to our new beginning." Nyril embraced him in the traditional manner, pressing her forehead briefly to his. "Commander, report on our people's status." "Better than we could have hoped," he replied, leading her toward the central administrative building. "The humans have been extraordinary. They've adapted their technology to our needs, trained our people to operate their systems, even modified their food synthesis to produce our native proteins." Inside the administration center, Nyril found a team of Lethviran scientists working alongside human specialists. Holographic displays showed plans for permanent settlements designed to honor traditional Lethviran architecture while incorporating advanced human environmental systems. "Ambassador," called out Chief Scientist Maris, hurrying over with a human researcher beside her. "The archive integration is proceeding ahead of schedule. We've established breeding programs for endangered Lethviran species using genetic samples from the contingency archive." "And this is not charity," added her human colleague. "Your biochemical knowledge is already helping us develop new medical applications. The Lethviran understanding of cellular regeneration could revolutionize human medicine." Everywhere Nyril looked, she saw cooperation, determination, and something she had nearly forgotten existed: hope. In just 3 weeks, humans had accomplished what might have taken the Lethviran decades on their own. That evening, as twin moons rose over their new world, the Lethviran gathered for the ceremony of remembrance and renewal, a ritual traditionally performed only at times of great transition. Captain Maida, Commander Okafor, and several other human officers had been invited to attend. Nyril stood before her assembled people, the ceremonial waters of memory glowing with bioluminescent organisms carefully transported from their lost homeworld. "We gather beneath unfamiliar stars," she began, her voice carrying across the silent crowd, "to honor what was lost and embrace what may yet be. Our homeworld is gone, but the essence of our civilization, our knowledge, our values, our very genetic code, survives because of those who reached across the void to save us." She gestured to the human officers. "The humans call themselves simply humanity, a term that, in their language, embodies compassion, courage, and the drive to protect others. Today, we have witnessed true humanity." Captain Maida stepped forward, when invited, accepting the ceremonial water chalice with careful reverence. "On behalf of the United Nations Space Command and the Frontier Alliance, I make this pledge. So long as humans travel the stars, the Lethviran will never stand alone against the darkness." Later that night, as the celebration continued around Ace, her Nyril found a quiet moment with Commander Okafor at the edge of the settlement. "When I was drifting in that escape pod," Nyril confessed, "I had accepted that I would be the last witness to my civilization's fall, that the Krivashi would erase our existence from the galaxy as they had done to so many before us." "Commander," Okafor gazed up at the stars. "You know, there's an old human saying, the universe is not only stranger than we imagine, it's stranger than we can imagine. When humanity first ventured beyond our solar system, we prepared for hostility, for competition over resources, for the harsh realities of cosmic survival. And instead, we discovered that the greatest resource in the universe is diversity itself, the infinite variety of perspectives, adaptations, and ideas that evolve across countless worlds." She smiled. "The Krivashi seek uniformity, assimilation. That's their fundamental flaw. And humanity's strength? Curiosity, adaptability, and a stubborn refusal to accept that anything is truly impossible." Commander Okafor turned to face Nyril directly. "The Krivashi thought they were erasing your people from history. Instead, They've ensured that the Leth Viran will be remembered as the catalyst that finally united the Frontier Alliance against them. In the days that followed, as permanent structures rose from the fertile soil of their new homeworld, Nyrel worked tirelessly with both her people and their human protectors. The Leth Viran adapted quickly, their natural resilience serving them well in this time of transition. Scientists began incorporating their unique biological knowledge into Alliance. Technology. Artisans created new works that blended traditional forms with the inspiration of their new environment. 1 month after the first refugees arrived, Admiral Tanaka returned to Sanctuary 3 with news. The Alliance fleet, bolstered by Osiri and Hrundir, forces had engaged the Krivashi Armada at the edge of the sector. The battle had been costly but decisive. The Krivashi advance had been halted, their network nodes destroyed, their hive intelligence temporarily fragmented. "This isn't the end of the conflict," the Admiral cautioned during the Alliance briefing. "But it's the beginning of the end of Krivashi expansion. For the first time, they face a united front of species determined to preserve their unique identities." As the briefing concluded, Nyrel found herself standing before a memorial garden the Leth Viran had planted. Native flowers from their lost homeworld, grown from seeds carried in the contingency archive, arranged around a simple stone marker inscribed with the names of their fallen worlds and outposts. Captain Meta joined her there, respectfully silent for several moments before speaking. "Your people are remarkably resilient, Ambassador. Already they speak of the future, not just of survival." "Because of humanity," Nyrel replied. "You showed us something we had forgotten. In our fear of the Krivashi, that the galaxy contains not only predators but also protectors." Meta shook his head. "We're not perfect, Ambassador. Human history contains as much darkness as light. But we've learned that the greatest victories aren't won through domination, but through connection." In the growing twilight, Nyrel watched as Leth Viran children played in the shadow of a human defensive installation, 2 species from distant stars, their futures now intertwined. Beyond them, the first permanent structures of New Letha City gleamed with lights, a beacon of defiance against the darkness that had nearly claimed them all. The Krivashi believed they were superior because they consumed the strengths of others, Nyrel observed. But humanity has shown us a more powerful path, sharing strengths while preserving what makes each of us unique. As night fell on their new world, the stars emerged. The same stars that had witnessed the fall of the Leth Viran homeworld now bore witness to their rebirth. And among those stars, human vessels stood sentinel, a promise kept to a people they had never known before, but would now stand beside for generations to come. The universe was vast and often cruel, but it had also produced humanity, a species that, despite its youth among the stars, had somehow remembered what many older civilizations had forgotten: that the true measure of greatness lies not in conquest, but in compassion, not in taking, but in giving, not in destruction, but in salvation. For the Leth Viran, lost in the depths of space and rescued by a human starship, this truth would forever be written in the stars of their new sky, a testament to the day when humanity reached into the void and refused to let an entire civilization disappear into the darkness.